Hi, my name is Brandon Santos. It is May 25th, 2016, and I'm doing an interview with Mr. Bill Frazier for the Field of Honor project, which is regarding his experiences and lessons as a result of his service in the military. So to start off the interview, what war did you serve in, and what branch of service were you in?
Actually, I was in the Army, and I was in between wars. When I was drafted in 1958, Korea had stopped a couple of years before that, and Vietnam was just getting ready to start up. So I was very fortunate. I was in a position where I didn't have to. I wasn't in a combat situation. So
Okay.
I was very fortunate. I was over in Okinawa.
Yeah.
We were protecting I was in a missile outfit.
Mm-hmm.
We were protecting Kadena Air Base, which was one of our biggest air bases in the Far East there.
Okay. What rank were you in the military?
I was PFC. I stayed at PFC.
Okay. You enlisted, correct?
No, I wasn't. I was drafted.
You were drafted.
Yeah, May 8th, 1958.
Okay.
That was when I
Did
went
you
in.
think you would serve in the military when you were younger?
I was always interested in it because when I grew up, World War II was going on.
Yeah.
And on my block, I grew up in New Rochelle, and on my block there was at least 7 or 8 older fellas, high school guys that were either drafted or joined the service.
Yeah.
You know, after Pearl Harbor, and it was so intense because the parents and the neighborhood people were always talking about, you know, how's John doing and how's this one doing, you know, and so I really, I often thought about it, you know, if I'd ever be in the service, but all of a sudden I was out of high school, and a few years later also, I think I was 23 when I got my notice, so that's how I got in there.
Yeah. So when you were younger, did you think the World War II was popular? Is that one of the reasons why you were kind of interested in it?
I thought it was. I was really excited about it. When I say excited, you know, there was a lot of worry about it. Because we had the Japanese we were coming in from the west side of the country, and we had the Germans over on the east side, and some of these fellas were in Europe, and some are in Japan, or in the Far East, in the islands rather, and it was part of your life growing up. There were so many things that you wouldn't have realized today. Like we had ration stamps. You couldn't get sugar in any of the stores. There were so many things that weren't around. People couldn't get gasoline. You had to have a sticker on your car if you were driving. You couldn't be just out for a joyride. You had to be either going to work or coming from. It was a whole different environment, and so naturally, you know, you're thinking about the Army and the Navy and the Marines and all that. That's because you're seeing it. Even on the weekends, going to a movie.
Yeah.
You'd go to a movie and they'd have the Pathé News, you know, it would come on, it'd be about 15 minutes of news, and they'd be telling you, they'd show you pictures of what was going on in the Philippines and what was going on in France, and it was, like I say, it was very impressive. You know, it left a mark on you, that's for sure.
All right. What was the training like for the Army?
Well, when I went in, fortunately I went in May. The basic training, you're doing a lot of bivouac, you're staying outside overnight, you're in these little pup tents that you just about get your feet in there.
Yeah.
And you know, I just always thought if I ever had to do basic training in January or February, I think I'd have been finished, you know.
Yeah.
But thank God it was in May. And I was down in Fort Dix, New Jersey, so it wasn't bad at all. I did well with that.
How long were you training for?
We were supposed to get 8 weeks of basic training.
Yeah.
But at the time, Puerto Rico was part of one of our possessions, you might say. So there was a group of Puerto Rican kids that were coming up to train with us, and for some reason, there was their boat or whatever. They were late getting there, so we had about an extra 2 or 3 weeks of hanging around Fort Dix, New Jersey, which is not a good thing because if you're not out training, you're digging holes or you're making they'll take you into a woods and say, we want to make this into a field, you know, that kind of thing. So
So they would just give you work to do?
Yeah, they found things.
Time?
Yeah, cut grass with the old push mowers and things. Yeah. So it was good when the Puerto Rican kids got there. It was great because then we went right into our training. You know, you're on the shooting firing range, and the grenade ranges, and you went through all this, and it was good.
Did you develop any long-time friendships while at training?
Yes, yeah.
Are you still in contact with them today?
With a couple, yeah.
Oh, that's really nice. So, you got drafted, correct?
Yes.
Was it difficult to leave your family behind?
No, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, actually. Because, like I say, we went to Fort Dix, which was only, maybe it's 70 miles or so away. And, and after you were there the first 4 weeks, they give you a weekend pass. So, you could park your car. If you had a car, you could leave it outside of town. There was a place where you could park for like $5 a month or something, So we did that.
Do you think you got it a lot easier than people who were drafted during a war?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like I say, I was very fortunate. There's so many people I know that really had it rough.
Yeah.
One of the members from our post went across. He landed in Normandy after D-Day, and he was 1 day shy of a year, 364 days. Yeah. Going across Europe, and in those 300 days he was never indoors.
Wow.
Every night was either in a tent or in a bombed out building or something like that. It was, so I guess I had it very easy. It was good.
So where exactly did you go again to serve?
What happened is, from Fort Dix, after our basic training, I was sent out to El Paso, Texas.
Yeah.
And my MOS, that's the job that you're going to be assigned. That's what they call an MOS. Mine was to be a computer operator on a missile site. And I had no idea, I knew nothing about missiles, I knew nothing about computers. Yeah. Those are the old analoging computers, And so I went out there, and in the training, I found out that the stuff I was working on was made by Western Electric. I had been working for Western Electric for a year before I was drafted. So the Army assumed I must know something about this equipment, which is a lot different from telephone equipment anyway. So I for 4 months out in Texas, training on the missiles. We fired a couple of missiles out there in White Sands out in New Mexico. Yeah. Everything was packed up, and then it was shipped over to Okinawa. And Okinawa is now a Japanese possession, which it wasn't when I was there.
Do you remember arriving at El Paso for the first time?
Yes. Yeah, I remember getting there. And
what was the feeling like when you got there?
It was a good feeling because I had never been to Texas before, and I thought this is great, And our Fort Bliss, Texas, was right next to Biggs Air Force Base, which I found out one of my high school buddies was stationed over there. So we got together a couple of times. That was good.
Wait, so you went to El Paso?
El Paso.
Did you go to Okinawa?
We went to Okinawa after the 4 months training.
Yeah.
And that was where I stayed for 14 months.
Okay. What exactly? You were just protecting something, correct?
We were protecting Kadena Air Base, which was a tremendous Army Air Force base, or Air Force base. And they had the latest equipment over there. They were flying the 101 Voodoos at the time, the jets. And our missiles were set up so that if any enemy was to attack Okinawa, we would fire at them before they could get to destroy the space.
So was there any conflict at Okinawa?
No, the only conflict we had was on May Day, which was a communist holiday back then, and they would rile up some of the locals, the communists, and they would come up and I remember one time they were stoning us for guard duty, and they were in this tall grass and they were throwing rocks and bouncing off the equipment. One guy got hurt pretty bad, but that was really nothing to speak of. But there was that. Yeah, there was the only other thing that was even a close call. Yeah. Was whenever a plane would come in, maybe they would be, let's say, 200 miles out, 300 miles out. If a plane was coming in towards Okinawa, they had what they called IFF, and they would send a signal out. And if it was one of our planes or any other nation, any friendly plane, it would send a signal back saying, who they were. Yeah. And if a plane didn't send a signal back, you assume there's something wrong there. So those fighters would take off and they'd go out there to meet it. And that happened one day. We were in the van. We were in the van where we controlled the missiles. And we're in there, and we can see on the radar, we can see our fighters going out and gathering around this plane, and we were expecting any second now for a report to come back over the radio that this particular plane was friendly, and it just kept saying unfriendly and unfriendly, and it kept getting closer and closer and closer. It finally got so close that one of the officers ran up, and you could see it landing at Kadena.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a big Russian bomber.
Oh.
And it got lost in a bad storm
Oh.
out at the East China Sea there,
Yeah.
where we were. And it was low on fuel, so it needed a base to get fuel.
Oh, okay.
So it came in, it was there for about 3 days, and of course the guys at Kadena Air Base, they wined and dined these guys.
Yeah.
Of course they went through the plane, they checked it out, but it was good. It was probably good relations, with the Russians at the time.
So what was your most memorable experience at Okinawa?
The most memorable one that was really shook us up was there was one of the fighter planes had a flame out, and the pilot he sent the plane towards the East China Sea, and just before it left land, he ejected. And when he ejected, evidently he pushed the stick forward, and the plane went straight down into a dive, and it crashed into a school. And it was a school, it was a small school in a little village. And they gathered all the guys on the island to go over there and clean up. And it was really terrible because it was just a bad situation. It wasn't his fault, it was just one of those things.
Yeah.
And I know it made the Time magazine because somebody back home sent me the article and we saw it read it.
So did you?
That was like one of the things you really stick in your mind.
Yeah. So did you carry any precious objects with you while you were at Okinawa?
Precious objects, I had...
meaningful, I guess, to you, like emotionally.
Oh yeah, I had a ring and a watch, that meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
But,
did it make you think about home? Like, did you miss?
Oh yeah, it was good. At the time, my mother sent me the local papers.
Yeah.
So I could see what was going on at home, and like the Journal News now, but it was the Standard Star back then in New Rochelle. Unfortunately, what they didn't realize is there was only 2 ships a month that came to Okinawa.
Yeah.
Every 15 days a ship came there. So every 15 days at mail call, they would dump all these newspapers on my boat. But it was good if you were following in a series,
Yeah.
You had 15 days of exactly knowing what was going on, But that, yeah.
So you read all the newspapers?
Oh yeah, everything, yeah. Even some of the other guys, there were people in the barracks, there was a couple of guys from Brooklyn and from Connecticut and so on. And they were spread around the barracks.
And it was definitely something you look forward to, right?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. It was good.
How was your relationship with the men you served with? Terrific.
We were like a team. There was 109 of us that trained in Texas on the missile site. That's what it took. This is the Nike Ajax, Nike's Hercules system, and it took 109 people to make this thing work.
Yeah.
And those 109 guys, we worked together, we trained together, we packed the same equipment up, unpacked the same stuff up, in Okinawa, set it up, and there we were for 14 months.
So the people you trained with, you also served with?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah, it was good.
Do you remember the day your service ended?
Yes, I do. It actually ended a little earlier than we thought because we were supposed to get, the Army gives you, every year they give you a 30 days leave in a year's time. And because we were a team like that, we didn't have any replacements coming in, so we had to stay.
Yeah.
We didn't get any time off. We worked 24 on, 24 off, and we didn't, we couldn't leave the island,
Yeah.
So they let us out a little early. They had another whole team that came over, and then we all went back. And the good thing about that is we didn't have to go by boat. We went by plane, which was fantastic because they hired a private airline company. I forget what company it was, but we flew back. I had hostesses and everything. It was great.
Yeah.
We had never been in a jet plane before.
Yeah.
So it was good.
Were you excited when your service ended?
Well, I was excited to get back. You see, like you asked me about my rank, I never really pushed for further rank because I had gotten a job with Western Electric.
Yeah.
And it was a fantastic job. We were working overtime and everything. I made more money than I ever made in my life. I was making at least $100 a week.
Yeah.
Okay. In the service, after a while, you made $78 a month.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like glad to get back because I couldn't wait to get back into my job. I wanted to get a car. I wanted to do all the things, that I had missed for 2 years.
So did you find it a little bit difficult to get back into society after?
No, not at all. No, there are some people where they do have a problem with that, but I didn't. I fell right back into it.
And so after your service, you went right back to Western Electric?
Yep, right back to Western Electric, yeah.
And so do you think you would have done something different if you didn't go into the service, or do you think you would always remain in Western Electric?
Yeah, I was always interested in commercial art. I did some artwork and stuff, and I should have really gone into that. But like I say, Western Electric was pretty good when I first joined. So when I got out of the service, the job was waiting, and then you get married, and then you raise a family, and there you are. Now you stay with that job.
Yeah. So after your service, you just did Western Electric for the rest of your career?
I did Western Electric. Yeah.
When did you retire?
I retired in 1990.
Okay. All right. And lastly, is there anything you would like to say that we didn't cover in this interview, like a message, I guess?
Yeah, well, I'll just say this, that when you asked about getting along in the service and so on, I'm sorry that I didn't stick with it, like join a unit when I got out and stay with the reserves and everything, because you learn so much in there. It's hard to explain to people, but you learn so much in the service. Getting along with people, learning how to do different things you've never done before, and it's a great experience. And I'm sorry that I didn't stay with it. I know people that are in their 70s that are still in reserve units. And it's a great thing. So the military's a good thing, really. It's not for everybody, believe me, but it's and like I say, it wasn't for me at that time because I had just given up a good job. But when you think about it later, it was all right.
It definitely teaches you something.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much.
Brandon, it was nice talking to you.